or welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the 26 books I want to read in 2026. I cannot believe 2026 is already here, but let's just jump right into it. Actually starting by reflecting on my 25 books I wanted to read in 2025 because I successfully read or DNF'd every single book on this list. I did have a couple soft DNFs, but you know what? I'm gonna count that as a win, and that is the first time I've successfully completed a TBR, so I am so proud of myself for doing that. This year, I'm afraid I got a little bit too ambitious because I did put a couple series on my list this year, which of course we will get to that, but I feel like I mostly use this TBR as a way to get through my physical TBR because you guys know I have been trying to get through my physical TBR, and of course you can expect more TBR takedowns in 2026. But we will start with my first book, which is actually a brand new book on my physical TBR. I just got this a couple weeks ago, but I really want to read it. This is one of those books that have been sitting on like my mental TBR for a really long time, and now that I finally have it, I'm like, okay, yes, I want to get my hands on this. Basically, all I know about this book is that it is a magical coffee house, and when you visit this cafe, you can basically choose one moment in your life that you want to go back and kind of like, I guess, relive or revisit, but you can only be in that moment until your coffee gets cold. And I think that synopsis is just so interesting. I'm trying to move my books so you can't see what is coming next before I actually talk about it. Next book actually has a little bit of a story to it because something about me is that I always give myself a little gift for my birthday and Christmas. I try not to really shop much throughout the year, so I like to give myself a little gift for those occasions or like whenever I meet goals, things like that. But this was actually my gift to myself for my birthday this year, and that's because I went to this book signing. I don't have many books that are signed, especially when I like go and actually meet the author in person. I don't think I've really ever done that. I think I maybe did that once and I was pretty young, and I don't think I have the book anymore, but it's so cute. It's addressed to me and everything, and basically all I know about this one is that it is compared to Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, which I rated Part of Your World a 5 star, so I feel like I'm going to love this book. And the second book just came out, so I want to read this one and then read the second one, but I'm only putting this one on my 2026 TBR, okay, because I want to successfully finish all of these books, and there's just so many books on a reader that I want to read. So we're starting with this one, but like I said, all I know is that this has been compared to Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and that is one of my favorite books. This next book, honestly, I only made this list because I need to get it off my physical TBR. It's been on there for way too long. This is Any Other Name, and this is a mystery book, and off the top of my brain, that's all I know about it. Oh, it takes place in the winter. Okay, interesting. I actually might pick this up soon then because I feel like that would be nice to read in the winter. I don't know. It says there's a detective dead and his boss wants to know what drove this by the book lawman to take his own life. With the clock ticking on the birth of Walt's first grandchild, he enlists the help of his friend Henry Standing Bear and Under Sheriff Vic Mortelli, and ends up elbow deep in a cold case involving 3 missing women. Okay, that sounds really interesting. Also, apparently this has a TV show on Netflix. I don't have Netflix anymore, unfortunately, but I've also just never heard of this. So I don't know, maybe I'll end up liking it and reading more of the other books in this series because it is a pretty long series, and I think that this is actually deeper into the series, but these books were written so that you could read them kind of as standalones. At least that's what my quick Googling told me, so hopefully that's right. And next I have Ask Again, Yes. I think this book was actually an OG popular book on TikTok back in the day, and I just never read it, and honestly that is the case for most popular books with me. I just take a while to get around to the popular books because obviously I just want to pick up books that I enjoy and love, but I do still like picking up the popular books and kind of gauging what I think compared to what everyone else thinks. But I believe that this was a popular one back in the day, and what I remember from this is that it follows an NYPD cop, but they live in the suburbs. Whenever I think of NYPD, I immediately think of New York City, not just like New York, you know? But anyways, it sounds like they have some personal things going on in their family lives, and it looks like it follows 2 separate families, and then one night something kind of happens to them, and it says their bond will be tested again and again over the next 30 years. Ask Again, Yes is a gorgeous and generous portrait of the daily intimacies of marriage and the power of forgiveness. So sounds interesting. Honestly, I feel like that synopsis didn't really tell me a ton, but I'm gonna read it, obviously, because it's on my 26 books in 2026. I'm getting very serious about this. Like, I really want to finish this. I'm like, 2026 hasn't even started at the time of me filming this video, and I already want to start reading these, but I can't. I'm gonna wait. Next, I want to read Amazing Grace Adams, which my mom actually gave me this book a really long time ago, so I feel bad that I haven't read it. Like, it's been so long that I wouldn't be surprised if she said she doesn't remember giving me this book. Like, that's how long it's been. But anyways, in this book, we're actually following an older woman. I feel like in most of the books I read, I'm following younger characters, and I feel like that's mostly just because I am younger, you know? But I do find it interesting when I read books following an older adult Gail, specifically an older woman, because in this book she is kind of going through the ringer. She's going through a divorce, her daughter's turning 16 and they're not speaking to each other, and so it sounds like she kind of all of a sudden just decides to kind of take life into her own hands, and it sounds like it'll be more of like a literary fiction type book, and that's definitely what I'm into. I feel like you can kind of tell from this list, I love a mystery, I love a literary fiction, I love a thriller. I really just love reading, honestly. I think that's what it is. Next I have We Were Strangers Once. This is yet another genre that I love. I probably should have mentioned that. I love historical fiction, especially when it takes place during World War II, and that's what this book does. And we're actually following, I think he is a Jewish immigrant. Yes. It says he escapes to Germany and he's now living in New York City. And I don't think I've read a book where we're following our main character who has escaped. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And like I said, I love World War II fiction. I think it's just a time period that I'm really interested in, and I love to read, obviously, and I love historical fiction. So those things blended together just scratches an itch in my brain, but then at the same time makes me incredibly sad. So I have to be careful when I read books like this. Also, that reminds me, I should have put a book about the Titanic on my list, because I randomly get this itch to read about the Titanic, and I'm in that itch right now. I need to like get my Titanic fix. If you guys have hyperfixations, you know what I'm talking about. Like sometimes they just come around and circle back, you know? And for me, that's World War II and the Titanic. Those are like periods of history that I'm just kind of obsessed with. So I bet I'm going to love this one. I've also never heard of this author, and I love exploring new authors. I actually feel like most of the books that I'm talking about today are by authors that I haven't really explored a ton. There are some books by authors that I have read already, like our next book. I have already read some Margaret Atwood. This is The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know if this is bothering anyone else, but trust me, it bothers me too, but I can't get it off. It's okay. I actually started this book years ago. I don't even know if you can tell. I got like 5 pages into it and then just stopped reading. I don't know why, because like I said, I do really enjoy Margaret Atwood. I can't remember what book I read from her, but I actually read it in school and I was like, yeah, I like this. So I have high hopes for this one. I believe that this is a dystopian or it's a thriller, but it has a TV show on Hulu, and I've been avoiding watching the TV show because I'm like, I'm gonna read the book. So here I am actually getting around to reading the book like years later. I think that's just a pattern in my life, okay? When this TV show came out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna read the book, and it's now taking me years to actually get around to that. I don't really know a ton about this book other than I think they're nurses, and yeah, it's like they have to like, yeah, I don't even know if I can say this on the internet. Basically, it kind of sounds like there's like a decline of births in this like dystopian world that they're living in, and so they're kind of, these women are basically being used. Basically. Yeah, like this says that she can remember the years before when she lived and made love to her husband Luke, when she played with and protected her daughter, when she had a job, money of her own, and access to knowledge, but all of that is gone now. So I'm interested to read this. I also don't know if this is a series because like I said, it's a TV show. I feel like there's got to be more books in this. I don't know, we'll see. Obviously if I end up liking this and it's a series, I'll keep reading it. Next I have The Psychology of Money, which is the one and only nonfiction on my list. If you guys have been watching me for a while, you know every year I said goal of reading a certain amount of nonfiction, and in 2025, so I guess when you're seeing this that would be last year, I absolutely failed that goal. Like I did not reach that goal at all. So I'm hoping putting at least one nonfiction on this list will kind of help me out there a little bit, and I've been wanting to read this book for so long. I was a finance major in college. I work in finance now. Money is just, I was about to say money runs my life, but I guess like it runs my job, not my life. Well, I guess you could say it runs both technically, in the literal sense and in the metaphorical sense. I don't know, but you guys know what I mean. And I feel like this is one of those books that just everyone that likes finance talks about this book, and I'm like, hey, I've never read this book. Like I need to know what the hype is about around this book. And I think a lot of people like this book because I think it's a bunch of like different stories from different people, and I think that kind of helps digest this finance money topic a little easier. The next book is one I find very intimidating, so it is of course yet another book that has been sitting on my TBR for a little while, and that is simply because I find it so intimidating, and I think it's mostly because I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about this, and I've also gotten a scene in this book spoiled for me. At least I think it's a spoiler because I don't think I should know this, but I'm talking about Credence by Penelope Douglas. This would also be my first Penelope Douglas book. Is that a bad idea because I'm starting with a book that's very mixed reviews? I don't know. But I will say I normally don't read an author once and then just like discount the rest of their work, you know what I mean? Like I normally try to give the author at least a couple different tries to see if I like their writing or not. So I'm a little nervous about this one, but we'll see. Also, I might have the indie version of this. I can't really tell because there's no publisher on the spine and the physical copy itself is like so heavy, which I feel like is normally when they are self-published. They're super heavy like this. Guys, the first 2 paragraphs at the back of this book make this book sound so good, and then I kept reading and I was like, the story is going where I think it's going and I'm kind of nervous about it. But basically we have our main character whose dad is a film producer, and then they just kind of suddenly pass away and she doesn't really know what to do with her life because a lot of her life revolved around him being this super famous film producer, and that kind of obviously changed how she grew up being in the limelight like that. But there's only one living relative and it's her father's stepbrother. Okay. It says she went to live with him and his 2 sons in the mountain of Colorado. She soon learns that these men now have a say in what she chooses to care and not care about anymore, as the 3 of them take her under their wing, teach her how to work and survive in the remote woods far away from the rest of the world. She slowly finds her place among them and as part of them, and she also realizes that lines blur and rules become easy to break when no one is watching. Whoa. And then it says, one of them has her, the other one wants her, but he's going to keep her? What? Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm still nervous, but I'm intrigued. Guys, also, that's probably like the 3rd time I've read the back of the book. It's not gonna stick, unfortunately. I'm going to have to reread the back of the book again and remind myself why I find this book intriguing, especially since it's one I am so intimidated by. Next book is by another author that I'm familiar with. This is How to Make Friends with the Dark. I read the one by her, Girl in Pieces, and I liked it. I didn't love it, but this book was given to me by my sister. She read it and she said she thought I might like it, so I'm gonna pick it up and see what I think. But this is a YA book and I'm very scared that I'm going to age out of the YA genre before I read some of the YA books still on my TBR. But basically our main character's mom dies and she doesn't know who her father is, which is why she ends up moving to a foster home and then another until hope surfaces in the shape of a sister. Sometimes family comes in forms you don't recognize, but can Tiger learn to make friends with the dark before it swallows her whole? Okay, this actually does sound right up my alley. I think my sister was right. I think I will actually really like this one. And then my next book is Before We Were Strangers, which is yet another popular TikTok book that I just never got around to. It takes place in New York City, which I feel like I love books that take place in New York City just because of the atmosphere. I feel like I can really picture it, even though I've been to New York City maybe twice in my life, but still, I feel like that helps. Anyway, this is a second chance romance, I believe, and literally the only thing I remember about this book is that they see each other again, but I think one of them is in a train and whoever's like in the train sees the person like standing on the platform, I guess, and I don't think the other person sees them, so I'm not entirely sure, but I kind of want to go into this book as blind as possible because like I said, people love this book and I kind of want to see what the hype is about, but I want to do it blindly. And my next 2 books are YA and they are technically rereads for me, but I've read them so long ago that I want to reread them, and I feel like I do this a lot with books, particularly ones that I remember just loving a ton in middle school, and now that I'm an adult I want to go back and see what my middle school self was absolutely loving. And I actually think both of these are dystopian books. So first we have Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. This actually just became a movie and I remember reading this book and being like, oh yeah, I need to read the rest of the series immediately, and then I never did. So if I do actually end up liking this book, I will probably read the rest of the series, but like I said, this first book would be a reread for me. And then the next book is also a reread. This is Slated. This one is a dystopian. I believe they wake up with their memories erased, which is crazy to me, and I don't remember this book being super popular in middle school. I definitely think Uglies was very popular, but I don't think this one was. But I remember being obsessed with this one, and I think there's 2 other books in this series, so hopefully I'll love this one as much as middle school me did, and then I can read the rest of the books in the series. But yeah, this was like one of my favorite childhood books, so I want to reread it. Next I have Elanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. I don't fully know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people talk about this book and a lot of people love this book. I believe it might be literary fiction. I love a good literary fiction. I'm getting a phone call. Anyway, I don't really remember what I was saying. I think I was just talking about Elanor Oliphant is completely fine. And I honestly don't really know much about this book except that we are following our main character. I think it'll be a very character focused book. I will probably like that, who knows. And next I have book 3 in the Anne of Green Gables series. This is Anne of the Island. And I don't know specifically what this book is about, but the first book in the series follows Anne when she's younger and we're kind of watching her as she grows up. So in the first book, we are actually seeing Anne when she is younger and she's getting adopted by a brother and sister who are actually looking for a boy to help out on their farm. And lo and behold, this girl shows up on their doorstep and they're kind of like, what do we do with her? Like, we wanted a boy because we need help on our farm. And things just kind of go from there. It is a very character focused story, but it is a very sweet story. These are actually classics, but I think they're technically for children, which makes them a lot easier to read than like the standard classics, specifically classics written in Old English. So this is one of, I think, maybe 2 classics that I have on my list that I want to read, but I have been enjoying just kind of slowly reading through this entire series. And then going off of that same kind of train of thought, I do have a couple other books in series that I want to read through. This is The Kill Order by James Dashner. I believe this is book 3 in the Maze Runner series. Hopefully I haven't gotten this reading order mixed up. If this is not book 3, I'm going to have to switch it out with what is book 3, but I believe that this is book 3. And if you don't know anything about the Maze Runner, it is a dystopian where we have a group, I think it's 12 boys, and they are basically trying to get out of this maze. And then one day a girl shows up and they're like, what's going on? Like, is this the end of the world? And it kind of is, because all of a sudden they stop getting supplies, they stop getting communication from whoever was communicating with them because they don't have any memories outside of this maze. And so this is book 3 in that series. So can't tell you what this book is about, but that's what the Maze Runner is about. And I believe the first 2 books are movies. I'm not sure if they ever made this book into a movie or not. If they have, I haven't seen it and I am fully unaware of the story of this book, which will be exciting because I went back and reread the first 2 books in the series. So like I said, The Maze Runner and The Scorched Trials. I think I reread both of those in 2025. So I'm excited to kind of see where the rest of this world is going to take us. I also want to read Emma by Jane Austen. This is honestly mostly just because I want to read all of Jane Austen's works, which including this one, I will have 4 more left. So we'll see if I can read all of her books. I definitely don't think I'm going to read them all in 2026, but I will hopefully get through some more this year. And I think that this one is actually one of her more popular ones. I think that there's a lot of kind of retellings on this book. So I'm excited to kind of read the original, and I do think that there's one book on my TBR, maybe it's Emma of 82nd Street or something like that, that is kind of a retelling of this story that I also want to read. But I want to read this one first, and then maybe I will go and read that one as well. And then I also want to read Ghost Head of Watchman by Harper LEe. This book actually takes place 2 decades after To Kill a Mockingbird, and I reread To Kill a Mockingbird this year and loved it as much as I remember loving it. I think it might be one of my favorite classics, and a little bit of that is nostalgia because I first read that book in middle school, but I have been wanting to reread To Kill a Mockingbird and then to read Ghost Head of Watchman for the longest time, so very excited to read this one. And we're talking about a couple classics back to back, but I've been trying to kind of branch out into classics a little bit because I do find particularly classics written with Old English to be hard to read, which Harper LEe's books are not written in Old English, so I don't find those hard to read. Now Jane Austen, that's a different story. Those are Old English, so I do struggle with those just a little bit, but like I said, To Kill a Mockingbird was my favorite classic, particularly in middle school. Middle school me, like, that was just, I loved it. Loved that book. And then this is the last book I actually own physically. The rest of the books I do not own, but I still want to read them. This is Shatter Me. Now, I am technically putting the entire series on my TBR, technically, not literally. And I say that because I want to read this entire series in a reading vlog. I don't know when that will be because there's so many books in the series, but I want to do that as soon as I can. I also really want to do that with the entire Lightning Thief series, so let me know which one you want to see first. But like I said, Shatter Me is on my TBR, and all I know about this is that it is a YA dystopian. And you already know I love a dystopian, okay? It says, a fragile teenage girl is held captive, locked in a cell by the reestablishment, a harsh dictatorship in charge of a crumbling world, but Juliet is no ordinary teenager. One touch from her can kill. So hopefully I love this and I can film that reading vlog where I read the entire series in one video. And then the next book is actually my book club's pick for January. Me and my friends have an in-person book club, and of course we pick the books out together. So we've already picked out the book for January. It is A Fate Inked in Blood. I don't really know a ton about this book, if I'm being honest, and I'm not actually sure that it was ever on my radar before we picked it, but I think that's mostly because it's a fantasy and I don't read a ton of fantasies. Now, I think the next book on my list is also a fantasy. This is Alchemized, and I can't even lie, you guys. As soon as I discovered what Manacled was, or am I pronouncing that right? I don't know. I feel like you guys know what I'm talking about. As soon as I discovered that that was like a thing, I was like, oh, I need to read this book right now. And I was like, oh, I can't because it's getting traditionally published. So I am so excited to read this book, and you already know Draco and Hermione, that's what dreams are made of, okay? So I'm very excited for this book, and I have heard raving reviews about this, so that's why I was like, okay, I'm gonna read it in 2026 because I've been wanting to read it for so long. I need to just finally get to it. And then the next couple of books are actually books that are getting screen adaptations this year. I feel like pretty much every year I try to read a couple of books that are getting screen adaptations because I try to read the books before I watch the TV show or the movie, but I never really want to say no to someone if they're like, hey, let's go see this movie. Like, I don't want to be like, no, I can't. I haven't read the book yet. I don't want to do that, you know? So I want to prepare just in case someone wants to go see these movies or watch these TV shows with me, okay? So first one I am so excited about. This is Revenge Wears Prada, which I read Devil Wears Prada. I think I might have read that in 2025. Oh my gosh, so good. That book, so good, but I think I might actually like the movie better than I like the book, which is crazy. I never say that ever. That might be the first time those words have ever come out of my mouth. But that book and movie kind of holds a special place in my heart because a lot of people were actually comparing my last job to that book. It's funny because I was like, I've never actually seen this movie. So I read the book, saw the movie, and then I was like, that is not what I do for work. Crazy that you guys think that that compares to my work at all. It was fully not the same at all, but I just loved that movie and the book so much, so I'm so excited that they are coming out with the next movie. But like I said, this book has actually been on my radar before I even realized that they were coming out with the movie, simply because I want to read this entire series. I think that the series is only 3 or 4 books, I'm not entirely sure. And then I also want to read the Chronicles of Narnia series, which I believe I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I want to read the entire series because they're actually coming out with a movie based on The Magician's Nephew. I think that this is technically the prequel to the entire world. I'm not entirely sure. I honestly don't really know all of the specifics about this series or about the movie that's coming out. I just kind of feel like this might be a nostalgic read for me because I loved the Chronicles of Narnia, the movies specifically, as a kid. So I kind of want to get like a bind up of all of these and just read the entire saga. Saga? What is the difference between saga and series? I don't know. Anyways, my camera's about to die, of course, and I only have 3 books left to talk about, but I want to read His and Hers by Alice Feeney, mostly just because this is getting a TV adaptation and I'm a big thriller lover, okay? The next book, I'm kind of scared because this is Verity by Colleen Hoover, and I have not read a Colleen Hoover book yet that I love. Actually, I haven't read one that I liked, period, but you know what? That's okay. I'm gonna give it another chance because, like I said, I love thrillers and this is getting a movie adaptation. So maybe I'll read the book and watch the movie. No, I definitely want to watch the movie because I love Anne Hathaway and I believe she's in this movie. So I'm definitely gonna read the book. And then the last book that I want to read in 2026 is Project Hail Mary, which I actually want to listen to this because I heard the audiobook is really good, but I don't know how to get my hands on the audiobook. I might have to actually like buy the audiobook to be able to listen to it. I don't know, but I just heard the audiobook is really good, and I do listen to a lot of audiobooks while I'm driving to and from work. If I have like a mindless task or if I'm cleaning, things like that, I will listen to the audiobooks. So hopefully I will get my hands on that. But that is all 26 books I want to read in 2026. Let me know what books you think I should read first. If you want to see any of these in any reading vlogs this year, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!